Anyway, so the Family Giving Tree began as my class project 34 years ago at San Jose State. And I was challenged by a teacher to create a project that added value to someone else's life and then come back in and tell the class about it. And I suggested that we do a project called the Family Giving Tree. And my fellow 8 students said, no, that they didn't think the idea was going to work. And so we didn't do it. But after that class, one of the students came up and said, you know, Jennifer, I thought you had a really good idea. And I said, yeah, I would love to have this work. And he said, well, then why don't you do it anyway? So that's the beginning of the Family Giving Tree, and it has been 34 years. We have 2 drives, a back to school drive where we provide backpacks filled with the appropriate level of school supplies, and the Holiday Wish Drive, which you guys are familiar with, which provides holiday gifts to families. And so this is our presentation, so you can see some fun pictures about what we do. In our first one, we have the wish card for the back to school drive. So this is what they used to look like, but it gives a better visual. So for high schoolers, that's the list of supplies they need. And it changes for kindergarten through 1st grade. And then we have a 2nd grade through 5th grade card. And so the donors can take that card, buy a backpack, fill it with all the right supplies, and then return it. If you do the next slide, please. So this is how people can display them. They do it on all different kinds of things, billboards, and people leave them in baskets on desks. I mean, just every other way you can imagine. People take pictures of the cards and send them out to their friends and employees. And then some way to bring, some place to bring those backpacks once they're filled back. And then, please. And then we collect all the backpacks at the end of July. And we have about 1,000 volunteers that will come on different shifts, and they will take a backpack and they will take everything out of it and put it on that mat. And that mat is specific to that grade level. And so once they're finished emptying the backpack, they can very easily visually see what is missing. And we have purchased those things knowing that things will be missing, and they will go over to our little store area, take the missing binder paper or red pens or whatever thing is missing, and they'll bring it back, and then they stuff the backpack. And that is our quality control step. And little people can, I've had 3-year-olds doing this step and doing it well. So it's pretty cool that we've broken it down so that engineers and toddlers can do the same drive. The next one. So this is a beautiful picture of what the warehouse looks like at one point. That's either a stack that hasn't been checked or it's a stack that has been checked. I can't tell. And then after that step, we row them up by the order from the schools. So we have 200 schools in the Bay Area that we serve, and they tell us how many underprivileged students they have and what grades they're in, and then we provide those backpacks for them. So we have our happy kids. I always enjoy looking at pictures of children that are receiving gifts or backpacks, and remembering that for them, the simplest things can be the biggest difference for them feeling like the love and support of the community. My favorite backpack distribution I went to was a bunch of 1st graders getting their backpacks, and they were opening the backpack and pulling things out like rulers, and they were absolutely thrilled to get a ruler. And I thought to myself, honestly, like, how can you be so excited about a ruler? And that was my kind of changed my thought process about what we're doing and why it's important, because they obviously they love everything that we're giving them because it's not something that they have access to. So this was a wonderful year. We had a couple ladies in Palo Alto who did fundraising for us, raised $86,000, and we were able to purchase a book, to put a book in every backpack. This is several years ago, and I keep praying that we'll have that happen again, because it was a huge thing for the kids. I didn't realize they don't have books at home. They don't have books at home. And so they also often don't have parents that really speak English well enough to help them with their homework and take them to the library and pick books out. So books became a very big deal that year for those kids.
What are the books? Are the books ones that help kids get into English?
Personally, I think all books help kids get into English, but yes, we try to find books that are grade level appropriate. Some of them have Spanish English translations happening. But generally, we try to look for things that are fun, because what we have figured out is that they can start reading when they're little and really enjoy a book. then by the time they get to middle school and high school where they have to read that stuff they don't like, it's much easier for them to manage.
Whoever took that picture needs a blue ribbon or something. That's a great picture.
Isn't that awesome? So this is Maya. Maya has now 16. This is Maya at age 5. Maya started volunteering at age 3. So when she was one of my first toddlers, and so she loved it so much that she comes back and we call her an angel elf. So that's a volunteer that spends more than 40 hours helping us per drive. So she's one of our angel elves. All right, the next one. So then we moved to the holiday wish drive. So this is what the wish cards look like now. 34 years ago, they were handwritten by my mother and I, and we were having to call a bunch of kids and ask them what they wanted for Christmas. And so we would, we'd make that phone call and we'd say, hi, my name is Jennifer and I'm an elf and I work for Santa. What would you like for Christmas? And then they would tell us, Barbie dolls and Tonka trucks and all the things that you would expect. And then one phone call I got, a little boy who I thought maybe I didn't understand him because his answer to my elf question was, I want pillows. And I said, okay, Santa will bring you pillows, like to sleep in bed with pillows. And he said, yes, two pillows. And I said, okay, Santa will bring you 2 pillows, but what toys do you play with? What do you want for you for Christmas, for fun? And he said, no, Santa must bring me 2 pillows. And I said, okay. I hung up the phone and I thought that was the strangest conversation I'd ever had in my life. And I'm, an MBA college student, age 26, just totally baffled by this 4-year-old. And so I called back the next day and I got his grandmother. And I told her about the conversation and she said, well, Luis's mother and his sister sleep on the floor. And so he wants those pillows for them. And we continued talking and she said, and he plays with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the kids next door. So I made 2 wish cards for Luis, one that said pillows and one that said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then I had to find a place to send all these wish cards to, which almost caused the catastrophe of not having the family giving tree start. Because I kept calling and no one said yes. People hung up on me. They said they'd call me back and didn't. They just said no, but nobody said yes. And then I was trying to reach this executive at Hewlett Packard. A relative of mine had a friend that worked at Hewlett Packard, so I was calling him and I dialed the number wrong. I'm dyslexic, so that happened a lot to me. So thank God for cell phones. But back then I called the phone and it was wrong, but I got a woman and she said, what are you doing? And I explained it. And she said, well, I work in the HR at the corporate office. Let me get back to you. And we hung up and I thought, yeah, that's not going to happen. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, she called back and said, yeah, you can bring an artificial Christmas tree to the cafeteria in the corporate office in Palo Alto, which is where I grew up. I was thrilled to death. I ran over there. I put all the wish cards up on the tree. And then I went home and said, oh my God, what happens if the HP employees don't buy these gifts? I've now spoken to 300 children. I've made these 300 wish cards. What do I do? And my dad said, so you call the richest person that you know and you ask them for money. So that was the beginning of my fundraising career. No, I didn't. I called Dad's employer. A lawyer and a friend of the family. And he said, yeah, Jen, I'll buy a gift for everybody that you've spoken to. And that's when I knew the giving tree was going to be a success. And a few minutes later, the phone rang and it was a reporter from the Mercury News because my lawyer friend was connected and told them about what we were doing. And so they did a story on the project. And then within 3 weeks, we had 28 companies sign up after seeing that story. And we were able to help 2004 children. So that's the very beginning of the family giving tree. And we ended up getting Luis, obviously, his pillows. When I told the story about what he needed and what his family situation was, we had some donors that also bought them beds and all bedding, not just pillows. And so that was an amazing first year experience for me and pretty much solidified why I will do this for the rest of my life. When you find a 4-year-old that's more selfless than you are, yeah, you just got to keep going. So the next picture is our holiday warehouse, similar to the back to school warehouse. But in the holiday warehouse, the wish cards are on holiday gifts of all kinds, and they're in rows based on what the agency asked for. So if I have an agency called a homeless shelter, say in Palo Alto, and they gave me the wishes for the 50 people that they generally serve, in that one row, there will be 50 gifts, all numbered from 1 to 50. And volunteers will take their little Santa's list, we call it Santa's list, and they'll go through the row and they'll check off each gift. And if something's missing, they will go to the little store, similar to the back to school drive. They'll go to the store in our warehouse and they'll pick a substituted gift and bring it back and put it down. And then the volunteers bag them up.
Where do you get a warehouse of that?
That is my biggest problem. It's always been my biggest problem. So we don't pay for them. We need about 100,000 square feet, which would cost us about $300,000 for the month, right? So I borrow them. And that's what I do is I beg for space. I talk to different corporations. It's a couple times it's been realtors, CBRE has been fantastic. Hooked us up with some owners of buildings, but most often it has been with a corporate contact of somebody that already takes the wish cards. So they're familiar with the family giving tree.
Wow.
But yeah, we've never had to pay for a building in 34 years and we pray that that continues.
I
Yeah.
suspect it'll be a lot easier this year.
I wish.
So,
Not so far.
how long do you need the warehouse for?
We use the warehouse in the back to school drive for 2 months, and then we use the warehouse for the holiday drive for 2 months. We actually only do this process for 3 weeks, but the setup and the cleanup are pretty extreme.
For 2 months.
2 months both drives.
Then the excess, you just, what do you do with the excess? You don't give it all away?
We call them extras. We end up giving out probably, well, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, the numbers are very different. But pre-pandemic, we would give out almost 15,000 gifts. After we finished our waiting list, we would have that many extra gifts. And we were helping, like 2019, I think we were helping 82,000 people. So to get 82,000 people's gifts, it took us maybe 40,000 wishes. So I made 40,000 wish cards, and then the extra gifts that came in, put them in the store, finished our sorting process. And then when we were all done, had, 18,000 gifts at the end. People like places like Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco, Ecumenical Hunger Program in East Palo Alto, City Team Ministries in San Jose are places that we get most of our extras to, because they're still helping kids even to Christmas Day. So at the end of our drive, we can still get gifts to kids on the 23rd if they come pick them up. They can still do distribution. So we like those big agencies that can do that, because otherwise we sit with them and we have no place to put them. It's not like I can go store them for next year. So yeah, this is just that we have a way online for people who want to receive wish cards. We set them out 25 at a time. And so if a family wants to take a packet of wish cards, they can ask for them and we'll send 25 cards. Our biggest host is basically like Cisco, and they take, I think, 3,000 wish cards. So from my dentist office, it takes 25 to Cisco, and that's the range of those who serve us. We have a backpack, online backpack, and an online holiday wish drive, both.
How many people does it take to do all that sorting?
8,000.
8,000.
Well, pre-pandemic, I had 8,000 volunteers every December.
Wow.
And those 8,000 people were there from December 5th to this 23rd. So it's 8,000 people in a very short period of time.
So, I mean, the logistics of that can be incredible.
And what's interesting, it hasn't really changed very much in all the 34 years. I mean, the first year I was really figuring things out. The second year was a little bit harder because we helped 5,000 kids the second year. And by the third year, we were helping 10,000. And by then the organization was critical. Because helping on that scale meant my simple things, my Excel spreadsheets weren't going to work anymore. My handwritten cards weren't going to work anymore, right? I was having to do everything in Excel and Microsoft Access and a whole bunch of other kind of learn how to use databases and all that stuff. But yeah, the systems itself have changed very little, except for with a few of our volunteer suggestions that have panned out well for me. So I had a numbering system that was kind of cumbersome. And a volunteer who had been in the warehouse 2 hours working came up to me and said, Jennifer, why don't you start every agency's child at number 1 and then just make new numbers for just your agencies? So you don't have these numbers like 10,024, which is volunteers couldn't get a gift in the right place. At 10,024, it could have been 1,024, it could have been 24. Like people didn't see all the numbers. So anyway, so that was the best suggestion ever. And I think that was like our 4th year, and that's what we're still doing. So that was pretty cool.
How did you raise the money for the book?
We call them the book ladies. There are 2 ladies in Palo Alto who also raised several millions of dollars asking people to help them. for the Palo Alto Library Fund. So they are like volunteer, professional, really fundraisers.
And you haven't done it year after year because they continue to do it?
Correct. Yeah, and that was their big thing. We have done books. We have had a couple of years, we had enough funds to be able to do books ourselves, but we haven't had anybody come in and we haven't had a grant that gives us a grant to put a book in every backpack. And that's what we should.
And it costs $82,000 for all those books.
Well, we're helping 24,000. We do 24,000 kids for the back to school drive. So that's 24,000 books.
Wow.
So we had a great relationship with Books Inc. and we bought a bunch of books wholesale and that's how we made those dollars go. But yeah, $86,000 helped basically 24,000 kids. And we have our happy children. Go ahead. So this is one of my favorite pictures of all time. I think it's probably at this point 20 years old, but I still love it because this really reflects to me what we're doing. The amazing experience that children have opening a gift. It is very likely the only brand new thing that they will have had given to them during the entire year. Everything else, all their clothes, everything is hand-me-down, donations. But this gift is brand new in a box, and hopefully it is an exact match to what the child asked for. And that's the hard part of my job, other than finding warehouse space, is making sure that we get wishes from individuals through agencies that serve those individuals. And then I can create the wish cards. So you all, I believe, helped one or two families. Last year, do you remember?
Yeah, it was two families, Jennifer, that we took on from the family giving tree. And we rolled out Operation Secret Elves
Ah,
for
nice.
the Rotary Club.
Very
And
nice.
that was a lot of fun, and we all went and shopped, and we had a wrapping party. And then I brought all the gifts over to your warehouse and was amazed with what I saw.
Beautiful, huh?
Yes, it was unbelievable.
And people walk into the warehouse and they start crying, and I just sit and wait, and I'm waiting to see if they're crying because there's so much need, or they're crying because there's so much love, right? And it's one or the other every time.
And
Emily, which two families were the family giving tree families? Do you remember?
offhand, I don't have the notes in front of me, but I can say that whatever was on their wish list, we gave them
Which is
exactly
awesome.
what they wanted.
Which is awesome.
And our
Right.
shoppers did a fabulous job. Fabulous.
Well done, guys. Well done. So the Operation Reindeer program, we have about 100 families that we serve, and they get two gifts each, kind of like Luis in the beginning. They get a fun gift and a practical gift. So like the pillows and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which by the way, are still popular. If anyone has figured that out, it has been 34 years and you can still buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the store. Like, isn't it crazy? Yeah, they're one of the things that just has kept going. So the difference is that they get two gifts each, rather than most of the children that we serve only get one. The next one.
Do you serve military families? Do you differentiate at all? Or?
And we don't differentiate. So the only way that we could scale, there's two things that we had to do. We had to find places to send wish cards. And so my idea in that class project was to send those wish cards to corporations. So other places had done it in churches, and they'd done it, like the Salvation Army did it in malls, which is great because that's where people are shopping. But my thought was, let's take them to where people have jobs who can afford to buy the gifts. And so that's why I chose corporations. So what was that second part of that question? Military.
You give out, because we had talked about that here, trying to support a couple of military families in the fall.
So we don't have any specific that I know of in the Operation Reindeer program, but the second most important thing for us to be able to scale was the agencies that serve the families. So I can't, if you ask me for a gift, I can't, there's no way I'm going to be able to check to make sure that you're actually impoverished. And the only thing we care about is financial need. If they're financially needy, we can give them a gift. So I adopt for the holiday drive 350 agencies that are in the Bay Area, and they guarantee to me that they're only providing us wishes for kids who are financially in need. And so we have a couple of our agencies who help military families. A couple have helped some incarcerate families who one of the parents or both the parents are incarcerated. A bunch of agencies who help disabled children and adults. I was Laura that we do 85% of those that we serve are 13 or under, and the last 5% are for seniors, 5% are for homeless families, and then 5% are for adults with special needs. And so if you send you a package of wish cards of 100 of them, you'll get 5 for seniors and 5 for disabled adults, and right, so goes on.
How many do you serve now? I must have missed that number, but
No, I was only talking pre-pandemic, because my pre-pandemic numbers are memorized. My pandemic has been just a difficult experience. We're so blessed to have such wonderful staff, board members, and volunteers and donors that we didn't actually suffer nearly as much as all my friends who have nonprofits or work in nonprofits. But we went from helping 86,000 kids to helping, I think the 2020 December, we were at like 15,000, which was soul crushing for the staff. But what ended up happening is the donors who used to go to Target and buy gifts weren't shopping at Target anymore, right? But this beautiful thing happened because we had a way to do this online. And the week before Christmas, we got $1 million in donations. And those donations were $35 at a time. So if you can imagine how many people that made those donations. So here we are, like December 23rd, 22nd, something like that. And my CFO says, you have $1 million to spend on holiday gifts. And I'm like, well, we didn't register that many wishes. So we had a total backwards thing. We ended up going to Coleman. We bought tents and sleeping bags for almost every homeless person in the Bay Area. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And then we did some other targeted things. We were buying jackets and shoes for one agency and shoes for another homeless agency and stuff like that. So we ended up spending our $1 million, but it took us till April to buy and distribute all of those gifts. It was kind of crazy. So this is just an example of an Operation Reindeer family, so that you can see, Maureen wanted a beaded Julie craft set and a makeup artist kit. So those are their 2 wishes. Their second choice on this list are not very what do we call it? Practical. Now our request is that their first gift is for fun and their second gift is something that's practical. And that seems to work better for the families that we serve.
Is it your geographical service area? Is that the Bay Area?
14 counties in the Bay Area.
Oh, 14 counties.
Yeah, Silicon Valley is a little bit larger than some people think.
Yeah.
I think it's 14 counties large.
And how many people on your staff now?
18. I have a staff of 18, a board of 10.
Oh, nice.
Last year we had 2,400, I think, volunteers come to help us for the holiday drive.
Wow.
And about 1,000 for the back to school drive. So we're getting back up there. It's just taking some time. Payroll, goodness. So our overall budget is $6 million. $3 million of that is gifts and backpacks that come to us. So it's a pass through. They come to us and they leave. So the last 3,000, which is what I would call our cash budget, I think it's half. I think half of our I think it's $1.5 million. It's something close like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, because mostly our expenses are people. That is our expense. People to create those wish cards, people to send those wish cards, people to find places to send the wish cards. Yeah, and we have an office in Milpitas that's Sobrato Family Foundation support. So we pay half the rent that we would pay.
About 880.
Yeah, my back window, I can look at the traffic. Yep, right, 880. So yeah, they've been very, very generous. We've been there for like 14 years.
Oh,
It's been great. So that's the only space we pay for is our actual office. We also have a truck and a van, and that costs some money for sure. And then we have a lot of printing. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on printing every year, and that's just our reality.
What's the change in time over the requests? Have you noticed anything different 10 years ago versus now?
Cameras used to be really popular, digital cameras, no requests for those anymore. Watches used to be really popular, no requests for those anymore. And I think that's because of our phones.
Cell phone pocket.
very good point.
We don't allow the wish, so they would be if we allowed it. So
It has ongoing.
yeah, so our limitations are anything under is $50. So our sweet spot is $20 to $50. And that's not based on what the child wants, that's actually based on what the donor will provide. So if we put a wish on a card that the donor connects with and will buy, then we can help those children. So we don't let them ask for, like, you can't ask for cigarettes, even though cigarettes would qualify from $20 to $50, right? Senior can't ask for cigarettes because a donor's not going to take that wish card, buy cigarettes and get them back to a person. No live animals. That's one of the
Oh,
sad requests I get every year is for a puppy or a kitten or a hamster, and we can't do that.
Well, that's-
But they haven't changed so much. They're pretty the same. Even some of the toys are exactly the same.
So when we go and buy, when we sponsor a family or two or three, right? I've been a shopper for Operation Reindeer for decades with a lot of realtors with so we brought it, and then I brought it into Operation Secret Elf here. But we used to be able to wrap them. We'd have huge wrapping parties. You'd have a family, there'd be a family of 8, it's great, a mother, father, 4 or 5 kids, grandparents. They would have their wish list and we would have the budget, we would do that, right? Then we used to wrap it, but now we're not wrapping them. What's the reason for not wrapping them? And then I'll ask my second question later.
So
Yeah.
two issues. September 11th, before that day, all the gifts that came to the warehouse were wrapped. The cards went out, donors bought them, wrapped them, brought them back in. And it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. September 11th happened and none of the corporations wanted to have wrapped packages sitting in their lobbies. So we stopped allowing that. But the second problem for Operation Reindeer was feedback Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, that week after, that what we gave them wasn't appropriate. Or one child got one thing and another child got 4 things. And the purpose of the family giving tree is to bring joy and to have those recipients feel connected to the community in a way they didn't before. People out there care about them, are willing to spend their time and money to help me. Wow, that's really amazing. I feel now connected. And the opposite happens when we do things like beautiful doll houses. Oh my God, this man made the most incredibly handmade doll houses, and he brought 2 of them to the warehouse. Well, I can't give a dollhouse to a child that is represented with rows of gifts and rows of kids, right? I can't give a Barbie to one kid and a $1,000, dollhouse to the next. And so that kind of equity becomes really important. So now nothing comes in wrapped. We look at everything. We really, really look at the Operation Reindeer stuff. Very much so.
The shopper, it's hard because
Yeah.
you might get a teenager who's just, and they want, the, I don't know, Under Armour sweatshirt or something,
Mhm.
right? And then,
Yep.
and that's probably $80, right? So so as a shopper, I'm like, I really want to make sure they get that one thing, no matter what, they're going to be happy with one thing.
Converse shoes.
Right? Yes, that was challenging.
Yep.
Very challenging. But I did find someone sale.
Awesome.
Okay, but yeah, it was hard though, because it seems to me as a shopper, it's harder for the old teenagers.
Yes, it is. For us too.
The harder, yeah.
Have you thought about keeping the value up to account for that?
We have been. It was 30, then 35. Last year it was 40. It's 50 this year. So yeah, exactly. And inflation's not helping, right?
And so when you say 50, are you talking per gift or per gift or per person?
gift.
Okay.
Wow.
I can do that.
If somebody brings me an iPod, which happens every year, depending on what type of iPod it is, I can give it to a child who asks for an MP3 player, or I can't because it's too expensive. So the dollhouses, the iPods, the cell phones, the really nice cameras that we've received, beautiful guitars, beautiful musical instruments. All of those things go to my agency coordinator, who chooses which agencies we serve. So she has a relationship with them and she knows which one will have a community room where those dollhouses will be used by 20 children, right? Not 2 or something like that.
That's a good idea.
So when we're in the warehouse and the volunteers are checking Santa's list, how am I doing on time? They're checking Santa's list and then they see a dollhouse, right? We explain to them that these children might be in the same family, they might be in a classroom together, we're not sure. So we want to make sure that there's parity across all of the gifts are in this one agency. So if it just turns out that this agency is really small and every single one of those donors went over and above and got them, their gift and a Christmas stocking full of candy, they can all have them if they all got them, if that was what we can do. If they didn't, we have to take the dollhouse out, put a Barbie in, because what we tell to the volunteer is imagine Christmas morning and you have 4 little girls opening their gifts and 3 of those little girls have a Barbie and they're so excited they got their first Barbie, and the 4th little girl opens a dollhouse. What happens?
Oh, Jesus.
You now have
Chaos.
and you've ruined the whole point is the joy, right? And so no.
Yeah, put the Barbies in the dock.
Yes, well,
Here's my follow-up question. to
Yeah.
that. So I totally get it, and thank you for explaining that, because in the decades that I've been doing this, nobody's ever explained that to me in that manner. So since all the gifts now come to you from the Operation Reindeer side unwrapped, do you go back, and let's say there's an agency that did something, do you go back to that agency and say, hey, for next year, do you give them feedback if they didn't do it right, is kind of where I'm at.
Oh, you mean the donors? If the donor
Yes.
folks didn't do it right?
Right.
Probably not. We probably should. It's dangerous to. It's a landmine.
It's a landmine.
To, yeah,
Because donors want to do well.
right, exactly. And it's in your heart to do well, right? And you
Right.
spend your time and energy to do well. Right.
And so I just last year, I had like 5 gifts for each of my things, but they were all small and everything was wrapped, and I tried to put it all together. But I get that.
And we won't separate them because you took the whole family. So you
Right.
did the same thing to the whole family, which means awesome.
Right.
They will have an amazing.
And mom's
experience,
gifts
right?
frequently are for her children. Like
Right.
I've seen that multiple times, and I'm just like, I gotta get this mom something else.
I keep saying the word Christmas, just so you know, there's no religious connection to anything that we're doing. A children's toy drive when I started it for Christmas. And yes, we try to get all the gifts out of the warehouse before Christmas so they can get to children by Christmas, but there is nothing about the child has to be Christian or the child has to celebrate Christmas or anything like that. So we have families that help agencies that help Jewish families. We have a lot of diversity in whom we serve. I just like to use the word Christmas because
Yeah.
that's special to me.
Especially at live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, here we are.
So did you say?
Yeah.
No. Does it have any other questions? Where does your primary funding come from? It comes from. the
Individuals. 6,000 people made donations last year to us,
Wow.
and they're like $50, 75. They're not
Well,
huge.
for your website?
Yes, yeah.
Wow, let's go.
Okay, so you had talked about you received $1 million last year, right?
2020.
In 2020, okay. So how do you think, I'm trying to figure out how to word this question. Most gifts are now online, right? Okay, so how has that changed your business and what does that do for people like us who would like to?
It sucks.
Right.
It really
Everybody
sucks.
gives last minute.
Yeah.
You can't get the gifts.
Exactly,
Or
exactly.
there's not enough shoppers. to go
So
buy.
it sucks for 2 reasons. First of all, what I buy wholesale, your money's gonna go way farther than giving me dollars to go purchase. But what I buy wholesale is often not as amazingly great as the gift you went to buy at Target.
Meaning the recipient.
For the recipient. So like Barbies, the same. Mattel is awesome. I can buy the most beautiful Barbies on the world for like 75% less than retail, right? So Barbies and all Mattel games, all of that stuff is cheap. But everything else, I'm buying whatever, I'm buying 100 or 200 at a time, or worst thing last year was blankets. And we had to test one and we felt it and we're like, okay, great. And then what they sent us was awful. And I couldn't give any of those blankets to those families. It was awful.
Now I'm gonna do it.
So yeah, so giving money is great on one level because it does allow me to buy a lot of things in bulk. And some of the stuff is amazing that I can buy, but sometimes isn't as good as I would like it to be and as nice as the donors would bring. But it's also really hard at the last minute to do anything. So if you give me $20 and it's, the 17th of December, it's really hard to buy a gift for $17 at that point, right?
Right, or
It's going to be a $50 gift or a $60 gift or a $70 gift, because you have to we buy things that are on sale and we, all year round, and we're watching specials, and we have lots of volunteers who are saying, hey, Jen, there's backpacks on sale at, Costco now. They're only whatever.
You see those sales and you don't have a warehouse. Now you. have a
It's
problem.
fun.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons it
Fill up
sucks.
your garage.
That's one of the reasons it sucks. Exactly right. Exactly right. So-
Storage locker.
So stats wise, people are surprised by a couple things. So I brought my notes. 1 in 4 Bay Area children are living in poverty. People are really surprised by that. 1 in 4 is crazy. 90% of those children were born in the United States. So they're not immigrants, or families often are, but they were not. By 3rd grade, a child in poverty is already 2 years behind educationally in math and science and reading, which is horrible, which is why we try to get the backpacks and the school supplies into the kids much at very young ages. And there's 355,000 children right now in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties that are in poverty, which is crazy.
The poverty level just Because I have not heard it in a long time. Santa Clara County is what, do you know off the top of your head? I mean, is it?
It's bad,
60,000
44
or 40,000?
44,000 for a family of 3 or something like that. I mean, you can't, yeah.
No, I know, I just haven't heard the number in a long time.
Yeah.
Any other questions?